Disrespect is never loud at its inception. It begins as a whisper, a subtle cut, a smirk, or a dismissive tone. If you choose to ignore that initial signal, you have already conceded the first battle. Most people commit this fatal error. They laugh it off, brushing the slight aside, operating under the naive belief that it will simply vanish. Machiavelli instructs us in the opposite truth. He grasped a fundamental reality that weak people never internalize. Respect is not merely earned. Respect is strategically enforced. When an individual shows disrespect, they are not just attacking your dignity. They are testing your power. They are calculating if you are worthy of their fear. Every time you allow a slight to pass, you are providing them with a clear answer. No, you are safe to proceed. For years, I've immersed myself in the study of power dynamics, and this truth is undeniable. The individuals who are habitually exploited are not inherently weaker. They are simply ignorant of the game being played. They confuse being nice with passively accepting garbage treatment. They believe that turning the other cheek makes them noble. But in a world where attention, resources, and respect are finite, perpetual niceness becomes a liability. It places a target on your back. It signals to predators that you are a safe, defenseless option for attack because you lack the will to fight back. Today, we delve into the darkest, yet most effective methodology for enforcing respect. This is not about losing control or descending into emotional tantrums. This is the science of cold, calculated dominance. This is how you transform into the kind of person others instinctively think twice about crossing. I am going to reveal 5 psychological tactics that will fundamentally change how people interact with you. These are not comforting, feel-good strategies. These are battle-tested methods that produce tangible results in the real world. By the end of this video, you will comprehend why strategic silence is a louder language than words. You will understand why relentless consistency cultivates fear. You will learn how the most quietly powerful individuals are those who are wholly self-sufficient and require nothing from anyone. You will be taught how to read disrespect as valuable intelligence regarding a person's true character and how to weaponize that information to secure your advantage. This process is not about becoming a monster. It is about establishing a presence that commands natural respect through its mere existence. Now, drop this into the comments. Disrespect awakens my vigilance. But first, ask yourself this. How often have you fruitlessly replayed a disrespectful encounter in your mind, agonizing over the perfect retort you should have delivered? How many times have you felt that searing, frustrated helplessness of being mistreated without knowing the decisive response? That internal conflict ends now. Today, you will learn the rules of a psychological game that most people don't even realize they're losing. The concealed face of disrespect. Let's begin by dismantling the catastrophic misunderstanding most people harbor regarding disrespect. They expect it to manifest as an obvious, direct punch to the face, impossible to mistake. But that is the style of the amateur. That is not how strategically intelligent people disrespect you. Real disrespect is a snake. It slithers in quietly, expertly disguised as harmless jokes, friendly teasing, or accidental mistakes. It is the coworker who consistently talks over you in meetings. It is the friend who delivers a cutting remark and immediately follows it with a non-apology. Just kidding. It is the family member who dismisses your opinions with a languid wave of the hand. Here is the typical insidious pattern. They test the boundary with a light probe. Perhaps a joke is made about your appearance or your competency. They are watching your reaction with clinical detachment. If you laugh it off or attempt to ignore it, they have acquired crucial data. You are a safe target. Next, the jokes become marginally meaner and more personal. The dismissive body language becomes more pronounced. They begin systematically interrupting or excluding you. Each step is intentionally small enough to make confrontation seem petty. Yet collectively, these actions form a pattern of systematic psychological domination. If you continue to absorb this behavior under the delusion that you are being the bigger person, the consequence is severe. You have effectively trained them to see you as a willing recipient of poor treatment. You have become their personal emotional punching bag, the person they can safely dump their frustrations onto without fear of repercussion. I have personally witnessed this pattern shatter self-esteem, careers, and relationships. Kind, well-intentioned people who assumed their niceness would prevail found themselves besieged by users, manipulators, and bullies who correctly identified their kindness as a fundamental weakness. Machiavelli lived and ruled in a world where any public display of weakness could result in annihilation. He understood that people are perpetually testing boundaries, searching for vulnerabilities to exploit. Here is the one truth that psychologically weak people cannot tolerate. Silence delivered at the wrong moment is interpreted as approval. When you offer no response to disrespect, you are not acting with maturity, you are being complicit. When you nervously laugh along with a joke made at your expense, you are not being a good sport, you are granting permission for the behavior to continue. When you let something slide just this once, you are not being understanding. You are actively teaching them that your boundaries are mere suggestions, not rules, revealing that you do not value your own dignity enough to defend it. This process explains why some people are stepped on for their entire lives, while others effortlessly command respect wherever they tread. It has nothing to do with luck or charisma. It is predicated entirely on understanding how human psychology functions and strategically responding to its demands. Those who earn respect understand that every interaction is a negotiation. Every conversation contains subtle power dynamics. Every relationship possesses an unspoken hierarchy that is established through thousands of small moments where respect is either freely given or decisively taken. Most people are playing checkers, reacting emotionally to each single move. The strategically intelligent are playing chess, thinking several moves ahead, constructing patterns that serve their long-term interests. Today, you graduate to chess. 5 tactics for unshakable respect. Number 1. Silence as a weapon. The first, most powerful tool in your psychological kit is not words, it is silence. But it must be strategic silence, not weak silence. Understanding the difference is transformative. Weak silence is a failure to respond because you are paralyzed by hurt, confusion, or fear. This projects victimhood, and people will sense your emotional turmoil, encouraging them to exploit you further. Strategic silence is the opposite. It is the calculated, deliberate choice not to respond. You are not confused. You are actively evaluating. You force them to wait while you decide if they are even worth your valuable energy. When disrespect occurs, do not immediately fire back, defend, or explain. You simply stop talking. You look at them and you allow the silence to stretch until it becomes intensely uncomfortable. During this vacuum, a powerful psychological process begins in their mind. They realize their words have failed to land as intended. The flow of the interaction has stopped, and they are the cause. They begin to question if they have genuinely crossed a line. Critically, they begin to fill that empty space with their own anxiety and guilt. The person who is comfortable with silence, who can sit in it without so much as flinching, gains immediate psychological leverage over those who cannot tolerate it. Machiavelli states, "Since love and fear can hardly exist together, if we must choose between them, it is far safer to be feared than loved." This strategic silence manufactures a specific type of fear. Not the fear of physical harm, but the fear of unpredictability. They cannot read you, they cannot anticipate your next move. And unpredictable people are dangerous people. Consider a group setting. Someone cracks a joke at your expense. Everyone laughs. Instead of reacting, you do nothing. You simply look at the offender with a perfectly neutral expression. The laughter quickly dissipates. The silence intensifies. The joke maker realizes their comment failed, and they may even attempt an apology or awkward explanation without you saying a single word. You have instantly shifted the entire social dynamic. This works because you have surgically disrupted the expected pattern. They anticipated you would play along. Instead, you became a mirror, reflecting their own unacceptable behavior back at them. The beauty is that you maintain complete emotional control. Your presence becomes intimidating precisely because you are unpredictable and immune to manipulation. Silence is not absence, silence is control. It is the pause before the storm. In a world filled with constant noise, the person who knows when to remain silent commands all the power. This power, however, must emanate from a place of strength, not emotional deficit. You stay quiet because you are strategically choosing to withhold your response until you determine the offender is worthy of one. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My silence is a weapon. Practice the pause in small situations. Let the offender feel the full weight of their own words. You will be astonished at how quickly people begin to self-monitor what they say around you. Number 2, the power of relentless consistency. Here is where most people fatally sabotage their own power. They set a boundary once and assume it is permanent. They enforce a standard one time and expect that single instance to be remembered forever. But boundaries are meaningless if they collapse the moment they face a serious challenge. Human beings are like water. They flow toward the path of least resistance. If your boundaries are porous, people will not only find the holes but actively exploit them. If your standards are shown to be negotiable, they will be negotiated down to nothing. This is why consistency is the ultimate psychological weapon. Not merely consistency in large confrontational moments, but consistency in every single interaction. Every time disrespect occurs, your response must be unwavering, calculated, and predictable. Examine the individuals in your life who effortlessly command respect. They are, without exception, relentlessly consistent in how they handle poor treatment. They do not allow slights to pass on Monday, only to explode over them on Friday. They maintain clear, defined standards and enforce those standards every single time. Now, consider those who are habitually walked all over. They are inconsistent. They permit minor disrespect in a misguided attempt to avoid conflict. They make arbitrary exceptions for people they like. They are a chaotic mix of good days and bad days regarding self-defense. This inconsistency trains people to keep testing your limits. It is a psychological slot machine. Sometimes they get a reaction, sometimes they don't. This very uncertainty encourages more attempts because people hope that this time will be different. Machiavelli understood that power is repetition. Each instance of consistent enforcement strengthens your reputation. Each instance of exception weakens your power. When you become relentlessly consistent, people begin to precisely predict your reactions. They know that specific behaviors will always trigger specific consequences. You need to understand how this consistency translates into real-world power. When you become relentlessly consistent, people begin to precisely predict your reactions. They know that specific behaviors will always trigger specific consequences. This predictability creates caution, and caution is the foundation of respect. You can deploy this strategy in practice in several ways. For instance, when a coworker interrupts you in a meeting, every single time, you immediately pause, look at them directly, and wait for them to complete their thought before continuing your point. You never ignore it. Similarly, when someone makes jokes at your expense, every single time your expression remains neutral. You do not laugh, smile, or play along, and you continue the conversation as if the comment was never made. Finally, if a person attempts to dump their emotional problems when you are unavailable every single time, You must deliver the same cold, firm boundary. I can see you're upset, but I cannot talk right now. You never listen out of guilt. Machiavelli reminds us that men are so simple and so much inclined to obey immediate necessities that a deceiver will never lack victims for his deceptions. The immediate necessity here is the avoidance of your consistent, cold consequences. When people know that disrespect will always result in the same predictable response, they internalize the need to police their own behavior around you. They realize you are not a person who makes exceptions. This consistency must extend beyond major violations to cover the smallest infractions. The subtle eye roll, the dismissive tone, the body language that communicates contempt. All of it must receive the same measured, consistent response. While this may seem harsh to the people-pleaser, it is actually more merciful. When people know your exact boundaries, they can adjust their behavior accordingly. They no longer have to guess whether today is a safe day for disrespect. They know you never tolerate it. This clarity makes relationships easier, not harder. The inconsistent people are the ones who create drama and confusion because no one knows what to expect. When you are consistently firm, people relax around you. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My standards are unbreakable. Start by isolating one behavior you currently tolerate. From this moment forward, respond to that behavior the exact same way every single time. Observe how swiftly people's behavior shifts when they realize your boundaries are non-negotiable. Number 3, decisive disproportionate retaliation. Now we address the action that separates the truly powerful from the rest. When disrespect occurs, your response cannot be proportionate to their action. It must be disproportionate. Why this works? An ordinary response is immediately forgettable. A cutting remark met with a cutting remark is just another argument. A disagreement met with an argument blends into the noise. But a cutting remark met with complete emotional withdrawal is unforgettable. Dismissal met with calculated distance and limited contact leaves a permanent impression. This approach doesn't imply a loss of control. It demands the absolute opposite. Your counter-response must be calculated to inflict a lasting psychological impact. The singular goal is to ensure that the offender remembers the consequence of crossing you every single time the impulse to disrespect arises. Consider these examples of a disproportionate response. If someone makes a joke at your expense instead of trading insults, you look at them with complete cold seriousness and state, "That wasn't funny." You then carry on the conversation as if they are no longer present. Alternatively, you simply excuse yourself from the situation entirely, offering no explanation and generating no drama. You have become instantly unavailable to them. Or if a friend consistently shows up late, signaling they don't value your time instead of complaining, you start making plans without them. When they inquire why they weren't invited, you state, "I didn't think you'd want to come since you always seem to have other priorities." The critical factor is that your response must generate a discomfort that outlasts the original offense. They must find themselves dwelling on your reaction days or weeks later, wondering if they went too far. Machiavelli states, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." Your objective is not cruelty, but to be memorable. When they contemplate future disrespect, the memory of the past uncomfortable consequence must serve as an immediate deterrent. This approach shatters their expectations. They anticipated a predictable reaction. Instead, they received ice and distance, a masterclass in cause and effect. Most people respond with either explosive anger or doormat compliance. Both are forgettable because they are predictable. The explosive response makes you look unstable, but a cold, measured, disproportionate response is what they will remember. That is what ensures they will think twice before testing you again. To demonstrate disproportionate consequences in action, consider how you handle specific behaviors. If someone continually talks over you in a group setting, You simply stop participating in group conversations when they are present. They must learn that their behavior has directly cost them your engagement. Similarly, if someone makes dismissive comments about your goals, you immediately stop sharing personal information with them entirely. They have proven themselves untrustworthy with access to your inner world. Finally, if a family member constantly criticizes your choices, you start limiting your time with them, becoming politely unavailable for events they attend. In each case, the magnitude of your response far exceeds the original offense, ensuring the lesson sticks. The punishment must speak louder than the offense. A minor slight must be met with a significant consequence. This forces them to calculate the true cost before any future violation. Remember, you are not chasing likability. You are enforcing respect. People who truly respect you will appreciate your high standards. Those who resist your standards were likely benefiting from your previous lack of boundaries anyway. Drop this in the comments. My responses define the balance of power. Commit to applying this principle to every new situation. Number 4. Crafting the dark persona. Here is a truth most people completely fail to grasp about power. Your actions are important, but your aura is definitive. The way people perceive you before you even speak dictates how they will treat you throughout the entire interaction. For this reason, you must craft the image of someone who should not be tested. This is not achieved through aggression, but through controlled intensity. The quiet, pervasive suggestion that crossing you would be an expensive mistake. This formidable image is built through dozens of small, consistent signals. It begins with your carriage, the confident way you walk into a room, and your speech, which must be measured, deliberate, and never rushed. It extends to your composure when handling conflict and your equilibrium, the way you respond to both praise and criticism with equal, cool composure. When others witness you shutting down disrespect with cold precision, they immediately make a permanent mental note. You are effectively filed under people not to mess with, and this reputation precedes you into every new social interaction. Individuals who command natural respect do not announce their standards because their mere presence communicates them. They do not need to threaten consequences because the understanding of those consequences is already universally assumed. This image is not intimidating in an obvious way. It is the image of someone who is utterly composed and competent. Someone who knows their worth and expects others to recognize it. Someone whose time and attention are treated as valuable because they themselves treat them as valuable. Machiavelli. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. What you want to project is the image of the untouchable, the person who has better things to do than engage in argument with those who don't understand boundaries, the person whose respect must be earned, not assumed. To cultivate your dark image, you must first master selectivity. Become selectively guarded about everything, who receives your warmth, your time, your attention, and second chances. This very act of scarcity intrinsically communicates your value. Next, your response to public disrespect must be a decisive public response, swift, calm, and definitive. You must deliver the cold consequence with the efficiency of someone who is an expert handler of such situations. The goal is to create tension. People should feel a slight tension when they are about to disrespect you, not because you are aggressively scary, but because you clearly possess high standards and the unwavering will to enforce them. This image is reinforced by adopting a no-chasing policy. Never chase anyone for attention or approval. If messages go unanswered, do not send follow-ups and let them come to you. You must also commit to no over-explaining or justifying your boundaries. State a limit once clearly, and then enforce it without discussion. Finally, and most crucially, maintain consistency. Never tolerate disrespect simply to keep the peace, because every time you enforce a standard, you strengthen the image, and every time you slide, you chip away at it. Remember, the most powerful people are often the quietest. They have no need to prove anything, and their presence alone commands attention. This formidable image serves you by making difficult people avoid you, while quality people are drawn to your self-respect. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My presence enforces respect. Number 5. The higher Machiavellian blueprint. We move now to the advanced echelon, where you permanently stop internalizing disrespect and begin seeing it as valuable intelligence about your environment. This perspective shift is profoundly liberating, as every instance of disrespect becomes a person giving you unfiltered information about their true feelings, their character, and their insecurities. Instead of getting emotional, you must become a scientist collecting data. You can categorize this intelligence. Envy is revealed by whoever disrespects you immediately after you succeed. Cowardice is exposed by whoever disrespects you only when no one else is around. Manipulation is the hallmark of those who act respectful publicly but become dismissive to your face. Finally, exploiters are those individuals who get visibly angry when you start demanding respect because they are the ones who benefited immensely from your previous self-disrespect. Machiavelli. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer, but first you need to identify who your enemies actually are. Many waste years being friendly with secret adversaries simply because they failed to notice the subtle signs of disrespect. This intelligence is invaluable for making decisions about your career, alliances, and relationships. You now possess the clarity to determine who to trust, who to exclude, and who requires careful monitoring because they are not truly aligned with you. Reading disrespect as intelligence. When you start reading disrespect as intelligence, you gain strategic clarity. Consider the coworker who consistently interrupts you in meetings but never does the same to the boss. That behavior clearly shows they view you as lower status and are actively trying to solidify that hierarchy. Therefore, the smart move is to not collaborate with them on important projects. Similarly, observe a friend who makes cutting jokes about your appearance, but never about your successful friends. That action reveals deep insecurity and resentment over your success, making them definitively not someone to celebrate your achievements with. Finally, if an acquaintance is respectful only when you're in a position of power, but becomes dismissive when your circumstances change, the intelligence is clear. They only respect your position, not you as a person, and they are absolutely not someone to count on during difficult times. This perspective shift is the ultimate liberation. Instead of thinking, "How dare they treat me this way?" you think, "Thank you for showing me who you really are before I trusted you with something vital." Disrespect becomes a filter. It is a security system alerting you to low-quality people before they can inflict permanent damage. The tendency to give people repeated benefits of the doubt is what consistently gets the naive hurt. The smart person pays attention to patterns of behavior over time. They recognize when actions do not match words. Machiavelli understood that human nature is predictable. People who violate minor boundaries will violate major ones when it serves their interest. This allows you to predict future behavior and protect yourself preemptively. This approach makes you emotionally bulletproof. You no longer interpret disrespect as a reflection of your own worth. You analyze it as pure information about their character. You remain strategic and analytical, rather than emotional and reactive. People reveal their true nature in how they treat those they think cannot harm them. Pay meticulous attention to how they treat subordinates, service workers, and family members. Drop this affirmation in the comments. Disrespect unmasks reality. Start tracking the patterns. Use this information to make better decisions about who is worthy of your time, energy, and trust. The psychology driving the attack. Let me give you the psychological key that unlocks all disrespectful behavior. The vast majority of it is never truly about you. It's about the person doing it. Understanding this fundamental truth grants you incredible predictive power. People disrespect others for a handful of highly predictable reasons. Sometimes it's insecurity, a desperate need to put someone else down just to elevate their own fragile self-image. Other times it's pure dominance, where they're actively testing to establish themselves as higher status. It can also stem from fear, where they try to discourage your success because your ascent makes them feel profoundly inadequate. Finally, it can simply be habit. They've learned that this behavior works with certain types of people, and they test it on everyone they meet to see who will tolerate it. The fascinating truth is that most people who dish out disrespect cannot handle receiving it. They are accustomed to being the aggressor. When you respond with calculated coldness, they become confused and uncomfortable. They chose you because they perceived you as weak or unlikely to fight back. Your lack of expected reaction shatters their entire strategy. They relied on you either taking it quietly or responding emotionally. When you respond with strategic silence and cold consequence, you flip the script entirely. Suddenly, they look petty and aggressive. The techniques we have discussed are effective because they work with human psychology, turning the offender's disrespectful tendencies into weapons that backfire directly on them. When you understand their behavior is rooted in their own issues, it is easier to respond strategically, not emotionally. You are not trying to convince them to like you. You are simply making it clear that disrespect carries a cost they are unwilling to pay. Habitual disrespecters seek easy targets. When you make yourself a difficult target, firm boundaries, real consequences, they quickly move on to easier prey. Kind people can have boundaries. Nice people can demand respect. Good people can refuse to tolerate poor treatment. These techniques are about fundamentally changing how people perceive and interact with you over time. As you consistently apply these principles, a remarkable transformation occurs. Your reputation begins to precede you. What they hear before they meet you is that you are an individual who commands respect. This reputation becomes self-reinforcing. When people expect to respect you, they usually do. They are less likely to test boundaries when they know crossing you has real consequences. This does not make you disliked. People are drawn to those who possess self-respect and the backbone to maintain their clear standards. Knowing where they stand with you actually makes relationships less stressful. Over time, the quality of people in your life will improve. Low-quality individuals, attracted to your previous tolerance, will naturally drift away. High-quality people who may have previously kept their distance will begin to engage because they respect your standards. You will find yourself surrounded only by individuals who naturally treat you well. Your professional life will improve. Your personal relationships will become healthier. This transformation demands patience and consistency. There will be temptations to let it slide just this once. But remember, every time you maintain your standard, you are making an investment in your future self. Every boundary enforced is a deposit in the bank of your reputation. The person who masters the strategic response becomes someone who does not need to ask for better treatment because they have created the conditions that make it inevitable.